I just saw a video that really upset me, so I thought I would make a counterpoint video to the argument that it made. Um, there's a guy named Chris Pirillo, and for those of you who don't know who Chris Pirillo is, he's one of the most popular IT bloggers on the entire internet. And he made a video about this new tablet paradigm that is um, changing the way that we use computers nowadays. And basically, in this video, he advocated that we should replace the traditional PC with this new tablet paradigm. Well, I can't even begin to enumerate how many problems there are with that whole idea. Now, a lot of you are probably already thinking, but Molex, this is the new way of things. You need to jump on the bandwagon or quit being an IT guy because you're a dinosaur. You're irrelevant. Chris is right. Everything does need to function like a tablet. No, you're wrong. And you'll agree with me by the end of this video, or at least I hope you will, that that would be a very bad move for the IT industry in general. The first problem with selling everything through a proprietary app store is that if I'm a software developer, then I want to sell software, let's say, for Windows 8, right? And they've removed all of the other avenues for me to sell software for their operating system except for their app store. Let's say I develop a media player and I want to sell it in the Windows App Store. Well, if Microsoft decides that they don't want to let me sell that because they have competing software, then guess what? I'm out of an avenue for selling software. And as soon as that happens, number one, you get less choices. Number two, I make less money as a software developer. And number three, you only have one option, and that's whatever the company that owns the App Store gives you. And the reason that, for me, that's not acceptable is I'm using Windows 8 right now as my primary operating system because I have to learn the new technology to stay on top of things. And as soon as I first installed it, I was a beta tester for the earlier versions of Windows 8 before it was released to the public. So it wasn't a complete shock to me the way that it worked. But as soon as I installed the one that came out in stores and started playing around with it to see what they had changed, I was impressed with some things. There was a lot that I liked about it. One of the things I didn't like was the fact that I only had a very minimalistic application to run music on. The video and audio player that they have that's native to Windows 8 is the one that was designed for the Xbox. The big problem with that is there's no sound equalizer. No sound equalizer means that I can't customize the way the sound comes out of my speakers. Now, you may be saying, but Molex, that's not a problem because there's other software available out there. You can download another media player and find one that does have an equalizer and customize it any way you want. Yep, you're right. There is other software out there. Right now, until Microsoft decides that they want to be the only one selling you a media player, and the idea that moving over to this tablet OS is going to remove viruses from the equation, that's the silliest thing I've ever heard. One of Chris's arguments in his video was that because things are screened by these companies that run and own the App Store, you're not going to have viruses anymore. Grow up, Chris. Look around you. The only reason that there's not a prevalence of viruses on tablets now is because, believe it or not, it's not a big enough share of the market for people to write viruses for it. But the other thing is that right now, relative to the amount of software that's out there, there's very little that these companies have to screen through to make sure that there is no virus. If you think for 1 second that every company out there that owns a piece of hardware like Microsoft or Apple, for instance, or Android or whomever else, which Android I guess would be Google, but if you think for 1 second that they have the ability to filter through all of the software that'll be available if we move over to this system, you're extremely, extremely naive, Chris. And from a software development standpoint, it's a developer's nightmare. Because I know most of you out there watching this video probably don't know this, but if you're a software developer, you have programming languages that you build everything in, and some examples of those programming languages would be Java, C Sharp, Visual Basic, and on top of those languages, in this paradigm, you have to also learn something called a framework. But what a framework is let's say I'm building an application for Microsoft's Windows 8 Metro UI. Well, I have to write that program in JavaScript or C Sharp or one of the programming languages that they allow you to develop for. But on top of that, there's something that runs inside of that framework, or inside of that language rather, called a framework. And what a framework does is essentially set limitations on the functionality of that programming language. So what you're going to have if you continue down this road is some very, very simplistic functionality in software. Now, a lot of you are saying, but I like simple. Molex, simple is a good thing because I can use it easier. Well, simple is a good thing for the consumer until something goes wrong. What you don't understand is that as an IT professional, when you call me to fix a problem, I need for there to be a way for me to get into the software and change the settings, to tweak things and fix the way that it integrates with your operating system. If you simplify everything down to the bare just bones of everything where I don't have the ability to modify the settings the way I need to get your malfunctioning piece of hardware or software working properly, that's going to be a problem the likes of which this industry has never before seen. Because what happens there is the only person you can call when you have a problem with a piece of software running on a Microsoft platform or an Apple platform is Microsoft or Apple. And what's going to happen there is when you have a problem, instead of calling me, who actually has the ability to communicate with you over the phone, you're going to pick the phone up and you're going to call somewhere in India, and somebody who doesn't care about you, who doesn't speak good English, is going to be the person you have to deal with for every single problem that you have with your computer. Do you want that to happen? Do you really want that to happen? Another argument that Chris made in this video is that he hears from a lot of PC gamers that this tablet environment's not going to work for video games. His answer for that was, tough cookies, gamers. You're not going to be able to game on PCs anymore. You're going to have to move to consoles. Well, Chris, I'm not a big avid video game player, but I see a major problem with that that will affect the entire industry. First thing is graphics cards. ATI and NVIDIA are huge, huge companies that make millions upon millions upon millions of dollars every year selling high-end graphics cards to PC users. And that's mostly for the purpose of video gaming and graphics modeling. So if you take away that aspect of computers, then you're going to kill an entire subsection of our industry, which will have an extremely deleterious effect on the entire industry. And you may be saying to yourself, but Molex, if we move everything over to this tablet environment type of thing, and we just start developing video games exclusively for consoles, then those companies can sell their hardware to the companies that make consoles. Wrong. Think about it this way. Look how long the Xbox 360 has been out, for example. When was the last time you went out and bought a new graphics card to put into your Xbox? You've never done that. Why? Because it's all proprietary hardware. Once it's built, you have to work with that hardware, and that's as good as it gets until they come out with a new iteration of whatever the console is. Why do I think that's a big deal as a person who doesn't really play a lot of video games? Like I said before, it's a huge chunk of the market for what it is that we do. And everything is like a domino effect. If you mess up one part of the IT industry, it's going to have an effect on this, which is going to have an effect on that, which is going to ruin things for everybody. Now, before I get off my soapbox and end this video, I just want you to think about something. Change is not always a good thing. We can make a change in a negative direction, and I believe that the entire industry, or the majority of the industry, at least the people controlling what is produced, are making a really big mistake moving everything towards this tablet environment. A lot of you are probably going, well, you're just a dinosaur and you need to jump on this bandwagon or stop being an IT professional. Look, there's going to be a slew of problems that I can't even enumerate in the length of this video, and in 10 to 15 years, you're going to see that I'm right. It's going to take a while for the industry to realize they made a mistake, but eventually we'll move back to the old platforms. I know that sounds like a naive thing for me to say, because a lot of people are using mostly just their smartphones and tablets for most of their daily usage type of thing. But trust me, it's not just the average consumer that is the issue here. You have software developers, video game developers. You have the people that make the stuff that those tablets use that need a fully functioning PC that has a traditional operating system on it. I don't know. I guess that's just one man's opinion, but if you want to see Chris Pirillo's original video on this, I'm going to post the link underneath this and you can check that out. But that's my view of things. I think everything is taking just a drastically wrong turn. Don't get me wrong, I have a tablet, I've got a smartphone, I use them both on a regular basis, but they don't need to replace my PC. And if you think they need to replace your PC, give it 15 years. Or no, it'll take 15 years for everybody to realize that we did the wrong thing. Give it 5 years. Move everything over to a closed source app store and let Microsoft and Apple control everything that's produced, and see how you like the world we live in technology after that. Just my thoughts on it. Until next time, this is the Molex Monkey saying stay grounded.